Good day. It's with renewed pleasure that we meet again this Sunday afternoon to talk about happenings in Cameroon, around Africa, and the world at large. But today, like last week, we've decided to focus on issues happening at home because many things are happening at home. And teachers say that they are in a very precarious situation now because they are being subjected to untold violence. They've been complaining on the social media, and their minister was quick to react to what happened at Colbison the other day. We are told she was on her way out of Yaoundé, and when she got the news, she turned and went over to Colbison to see what had happened. A teacher had been stabbed by a student and he died shortly afterwards. That will be our focus today, but not before. We would have talked about the visit of the president of the African Football Confederation to Cameroon. Is that good omen? What will Cameroon do with two big continental events that will be happening within a space of about 8 months? The African Football Championships and the African Nations Cup. This time, the president of the African Football Confederation has said it is going to take place in Cameroon. Businessmen and sports fans, as Cameroonians as a whole, have been reacting to it. We'll touch on that. Not before, we would have asked Emmanuel Avenu to give us our press review. When we come back, I'll tell you who is who on the set this midday. Our press.
The February 19 polls in Cameroon made headline news in most newspapers this week. Cameroon Tribune announces security measures that have been guaranteed ahead of the elections. The Chronicle Times sees President Biya matching words with actions by dispatching 700 gendarmes to the northwest and southwest. But the Guardian Post says troops deployment not guarantee for massive participation in the northwest and southwest. At a time, the northwest and southwest population rejects lockdown ahead of twin polls on municipal updates. The Rambler wants to understand what's the SDF's stand on February 9 polls. Just when political blunders of Frundi and Camto interest the lone English daily, the Guardian Post writes, like Frundi, like Camto. To the paper, these two have adopted an attitude of boycott, empty threats, and meeting personalities abroad whom the paper says have little to do to help them capture power. Then the Post reports that despite rising kidnappings of opposition politicians, Elekam board chair insists elections must hold. The same kidnapping, Frundi accuses CPDM of conniving with Amber Boys to frustrate SDF on the Guardian Post. At a time, Atanganji sends danger signals to perpetrators of disorder during the February polls on the Guardian Post. Happening when the African lawyers prick British Prime Minister on injustices in southern Cameroons, as contained on the Voice newspaper. On its heels comes the Post, which writes, African Bar demands UN organized referendum to end war. Then the entire country is plunged into shock by the killing of a teacher by his student at GBHS in Colbison in Yaoundé. Cameroon Tribune writes, student stabs his mathematics teacher to death. But the Guardian Post sees Yaoundé in shock as 15-year-old student stabs his teacher to death. The story comes like an opener to other incidents, another recorded in Obala where a student chops off the fingers of his classmates, and others recorded across different government bilingual high schools in the country. But the Post reports that after this incident, Minister Nalova Lyonga has drawn a line between teachers, students, and discipline masters. At a time, the media in Cameroon mourns one of theirs, Jack Ekwekinge, English journalist with Equinox Television, as reported by the Guardian Post. Then the mayor of Nkor and publisher of the Post newspaper, Francis Wache, begins his final journey to eternity, as contained on the Post newspaper. Then Minfi introduces move to increase revenue collection on the Guardian Post. At the same time, the 2020 logbook for Northwest and Southwest is made available on the Post Weekender. Cameroon Tribune takes interest in the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities, which government explains the stakes. Then the National Rights Commission chair strikes over zealous government officials who impede his structure from effectively doing their job. on the Guardian Post. At a time, the Post-Weekender sees government separatists indicted for killings, torture, kidnappings on 2020 Human Rights Watch report on Cameroon. The visit of CAF's President Ahmad Ahmad to Cameroon, the call for Bilingualism Commission to educate the masses on the new law that promotes official languages in the country. The meeting of Kamto with Thibaut Nagida sparks controversy and more equally formed stories reported by the papers this week. Let's now end our press review with a story on the Guardian Post, wherein an 18-year-old girl has stabbed to death her boyfriend in Balmayo Center region. Patricia had visited André, during which she stabbed him around the heart to death, then tried jumping into the Nyong River before she was intercepted by neighbors. Patricia is currently in police custody pending investigations. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you, Emmanuel Avemnu. Let's begin with an introduction of those who are with us on the set this midday. We have Professor Pascal Koum Awa. He's an anthropologist. You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
We have Mr. Isaac Nchom. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
He's a teacher, but of a mission school. Let me call it out so you can make it more understandable. We have His Majesty Rene Batum, President of a Parents-Teacher Association of Government Bilingual High School in Coleton. You're welcome.
Thank you, John.
And then we have Dr. Emmanuel Yimbo. He's a teacher in a government school. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'd like us to begin with something lighter, football, which Cameroonians like you all love. How did you receive the message that the president of the African Football Confederation was coming to Cameroon? Fear or what?
Personally, Joe, I would say that I was afraid.
Why?
Afraid because of what happened maybe 2 years ago. We remember the last time the president of the Cameroon, the African Football Confederation was here. It wasn't good news for Cameroon. And
no, he came and made the news after he had gone.
Yeah, he came, and when he went back, you know what he said.
Okay.
That we're not ready, and they were panicked. The stadiums were not ready, the roads were not constructed, hotels, and there was virtually a lot of doubts if Cameroon would actually host the tournament. But this time around, from the news I could get from the social media or from the government media,
and even what he said.
And even what he said, I think there is hope now that maybe things will go the way it's supposed to be.
Okay. Your Majesty, Cameroon will be hosting 2 events in a space of about 8 months, April this year and early next year. What should the government do and Feka Food to maximize these 2 opportunities?
I hope the government now very
prepared.
Yes, the government is
prepared for it.
Yes, for those events.
Okay. Isaac, a lot of talk around that we would host one of the best competitions on the continent because of the infrastructure that we've put in place. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that because if you go to Douala, you look at the stadium in Douala, the one here in Yaoundé, the one in Bafoussam, they are all really modern stadia, and I think we are prepared because I've equally seen a lot of routes being constructed to ease circulation.
Okay, and as an anthropologist and somebody who watches society carefully or keenly, would you say that this is the opportunity we're waiting for?
I would say Cameroon has still a lot to be done.
We are about 10 or 11 months away.
We're 11 months away from that event.
The stadia are almost complete, but what we need now is access roads and finishing touches.
I guess if we have to visit all the stadia and to assess its completeness, I would say that we may just be 60% to completion. And except something Because at this time we would have been
those of us who are keen observers would
Yes.
say that we are about 90% or 95% when it comes to the stadium.
I'm giving my own judgment
Okay.
about it.
Did you have the opportunity of visiting
Of course,
some?
I've visited some.
Okay.
I've visited some.
All right.
And talking about a stadium is not what makes a competition.
Okay.
It is many other infrastructure and facilities. It is the preparedness of the population to welcome that particular event. I think Cameroonians are still in the shock. And except something very very dramatic happens, I am afraid Ahmad may come back to
some of those pronouncements. I don't think so.
By telling us
this time it was almost he was almost emphatic in what he said, and from the reception and the press conference and the pronouncements which he made, it will be I don't think that he can turn around again. Almost everything is
we
said.
have to work we will have to work very hard so that he does not turn around.
The government has taken the commitment. Yes,
I just wanted to add to what Prof was saying, that it's not an Ahmed issue, it's a Cameroonian issue.
Yeah.
If by the time he comes back here, he doesn't see what it takes.
No, he has said he would send a technical team to accompany Cameroon to the end.
Yeah. Oh, let's hope so.
Okay.
Let's hope so.
All right.
If that is said, then fine.
Okay, all right. I'd like us to move on to the key issues, which we're supposed to have this midday, which has to do with the violence which is rampant in our public schools today. We have this kicker from this report done for us by Precious Tabo Ayizuf from CRTV Center. Azizuf.
The young teacher, Jumi Chakunte Morris, is just a fresh graduate from training school, recently posted to a school in the south where he was still to take up service. While waiting to move to his new station, Jumi has been serving as a sponsored teacher at the government bilingual high school called Bisong Yaoundé the past 2 months. According to a classmate of the murderer in Katriem, the 17-year-old Biseng Boso Breeze had disagreed with the victim over his scores in a maths test the previous day and promised the teacher hell when he would not succumb. True to his words, Breeze showed up the following day and attempted to stab his teacher with a mathematical compass, and when that failed, he brought out a knife and stabbed him on the chest thrice before taking off. Fear and pandemonium gripped the entire school as the teacher was rushed to the hospital but gave up the ghost due to the loss of too much blood. The Minister of Secondary Education, Nalova Lyonga, who was present at the scene, took out time to have a working session with the administration and staff in regards to tightening security in the milieu. As investigations were on, 17-year-old Breeze is in police custody, while the mortal remains of Jumi Chakunte lie cold in the mortuary.
A shocking story there. I want to begin with the anthropologist. The problem of violence in our colleges is a reality, right?
It is, indeed.
Would you accept that it's a reality also?
Of course, it's a reality. I mean, from the report, there is enough evidence to justify the fact
that could that could be qualified as an isolated case.
Definitely not an isolated case.
Okay. Do you have that in mission schools also?
Yeah, we do have. We have students brutalizing other students, but to have a student fight with a teacher,
it's rare.
It's rare.
Okay. Do you discuss that at the level of parent-teacher association when you meet? Does the administration report to you about violence perpetrated against schools?
Yes, we put some pancards to
dissuade them.
Dissuade violence in school.
Okay. Now, besides what happened at Corbison, how does violence in schools manifest itself?
Joe, like you rightly saw from the report, if I were to take my personal experience, you know, we have these extremely big boys. Some of them take up time to brutalize their classmates. Some are even as courageous as to even threaten the teachers and even beat up teachers. We've had cases where students have waylaid teachers on their way home and malhandled them. We have big students in class, they are bullying and, you know, brutalizing the younger ones. I think it's a common phenomenon, and there are a lot of things that can justify
I just want to know for now how it manifests itself. Okay, you've given me the physical fighting, verbal threats.
Verbal threats, you know, but most of the time it's physical fighting and verbal threats.
Okay, yeah. I'll come back to you as PTA president, but let me see how it manifests itself. Do you have the same scenario happening in mission schools where the students are in a dormitory?
Yeah, with us in the dormitory at times it's really even more of a higher magnitude, because when they cannot threaten you, they can steal your things. At times they take your uniforms and go and throw them. Okay,
you mean their colleagues?
Yes.
Okay, they take their uniforms?
Yes, once an older boy bullies at a junior student, what they do at times, they steal their things and go and hide. Okay, like a way of punishing? Yes, punishing them. Punishing the junior students, yes, or punishing the person with whom? The senior student. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, is it limited to students of big sizes? Or that's because we have the children are growing faster now than they were growing in the past, even though they are younger. So you'd have a child of about 17 years who is already a full-blown up man. So is it happening only with the male students, or it also with female students? At times it's even worse with the girls. Yeah. Especially, you mean amongst themselves? Amongst themselves. Yeah, okay. In your case, it is amongst themselves. Yes, sir. And in government schools, it is both amongst themselves and with teachers. Is that right? Sure. Okay. Now, which means that it's not limited to gender and to class. No. It is a generalized phenomenon. Yes. So how would you explain this rise in the phenomenon of violence in our colleges today?
I would say that violence is an emerging culture in our society, in our schools. And this emerging culture is really complex. It's a complex emergency that when you look at it, it starts right from the home and moves into the wider society, the school, the training workshops and workplaces. So it is a culture that is emerging, which alarm had been sounded through research to say there is a problem here, because I remember in 1994 we conducted a study, national survey, a rapid assessment, and we were able to find out that 40% that there's violence within the school milieu at the rate of 40%. We said, okay, this is a study, research requested by the World Health Organization, led by the Minister of Health. Something was going to be done about that. In 1999, we conducted another study. We showed that youths were highly disposed to being violent. That young people were highly disposed to being violent, irrespective of gender. And that one of the issues that orchestrated violence was drugs, and that the use of drugs was on the increase. And we found out that 70% of students within school were taking some form of drugs. We hinted that. In fact, those reports, or what we did, is published and is online, which you can pick up. And some of these studies were multinational studies that is conducted in Cameroon and other countries. Okay. So you see, it is of high magnitude. It's not something that is isolated. And my fear is it may spill over from the school environment to the wider society where these children live. They spend just 8 hours in school. And after school, where do they find themselves? In the wider society, where they interact with youths who are not school going. Younger people, younger brothers and sisters at home, where some of the violence takes place. You see them fighting over food, or fighting to assert themselves, or in the community where they'll fight and orchestrate sexual violence towards each other, either the girls or the boys. So it is an issue which is emerging. It's an emerging culture. And does your study talk about what is happening in Cameroon because you conducted the study here, yeah, or
by extrapolation, that's a culture which is gripping the entire world.
It is. It talks about what is happening in Cameroon. And then when you compare with studies
done elsewhere,
it is an emerging culture in other countries.
Is it limited to Africa, or it is also in the developed countries?
In Africa, it's of a different nature.
Okay.
In the developed countries, it is of a different nature.
Okay.
But all is summarized to physical violence, psychological violence, neglect.
Okay.
Neglect either by the state, by the parents, or by the wider society where these children live.
Okay, so now, when you listen to him speak, how would you explain what happens within your own community? That you are the principal of a boarding school, and you watch the students act. Do you see them come with that behavior, or it's that some of them learn such violent acts within the school milieu?
Most of the behavior actually comes from home. We see that most of them come from home with that behavior, and we try to curb it, following our rules and regulations. Initially, when they just come from home, the crime rate is always high. And the irony is that when a child is sanctioned, you find some parents, they come to defend.
Okay, we'll come to the responsibilities of parents later on, but you've just given me the exact answer I wanted. Now, when you meet at the level of parents with the school administration, what do you tell the school administration in relation to what he has just said?
All the time we are talking together how we can do to
curb the phenomenon.
To curb the phenomenon in our school, in Colton. We take some measure. Sometimes we invite policemen. We invite in
plain uniform.
Yes. The professor, the head
of the institution.
The institution must work very hard, because we have a lot of students, and we take so many surveillance sector of
discipline masters.
Yes, we take so many, because if we cannot do this, we cannot
curb the phenomenon.
Yes.
But apparently, from what he is saying, they are trying to deal with an existing problem already. Now, at the level of your own college, and from your own experience as a teacher in a government school, when you hear the way Prof analyzes the situation, and he says that the teacher from the mission school says that it's something that is embraced and that comes from home, would you say that parents are largely responsible, or that they have abandoned their parental responsibilities of today?
Thank you very much, Joe. I will say here emphatically that 90% of our modern parents have abandoned their paternal and maternal responsibilities. If you see the way some of these children behave, if you see the attitudes that some of them have developed, you realize that this kind of attitude or this kind of behaviors are coming from home. I will tell you something which I was telling a colleague. We spend just 8 hours with these kids. They spend, like Prof said, they spend the rest of the hours with their parents at home, at society, or wherever. We don't teach children how to respect others. We don't teach children how to get up in the morning, brush your mouth, or take your bath. We don't teach students how to eat. We don't teach them at what time you need to go to bed. We don't teach them that you don't talk to an elder anyhow. We don't teach them that you need to clean your environment where you are staying. These are moral lessons that have to be given by the parents. Teachers don't perform miracles. I want to make this very clear, because some people think that when you fail in your paternal responsibility, you come and dump your children or your badly brought up children in the lycées, and you want us to perform miracles. We don't perform miracles. Our responsibility is to teach. It's true that from time to time we are obliged to guide these children and to advise them in the way they can grow up to be better Cameroonians or better citizens. But the principal responsibility for somebody to mold the child and develop certain internal qualities in that child, it is the responsibility of the parents.
No.
And what we have observed is 90% of parents don't care anymore about what happens to their kids. Once the child goes to school, comes back from school, you don't even have time to look at the child's books. If the child even wrote anything in school or something, if a child has a problem, the first thing they do, they rush to school to attack the teacher or to attack the person who said, "Oh, my child is this or my child is that." Joe, please,
Okay.
in my sound
Yes,
funny, let me
yes,
just
yes.
give you a short anecdote. A child was caught red-handed having sex in the toilet in school with another male child. We immediately convoked this child's mother. The mother comes to campus. You know what that mom asked us? If it is our body that boy was using, what was our business in it?
Okay, that sounds
So just
interesting.
imagine
but you were supposed to take, if I were to respond, I would say you take your responsibilities as children, and that is not permitted by law and by the morals of the school, and so you sanction the child. But have you noticed that these violent children or these children that misbehave come from broken homes, or that it's generally a general phenomenon, whether the home is broken or not? Maybe
that's a general phenomenon.
Yes.
It's a general phenomenon.
Yes,
Well,
I think
for us in the mission school, we have observed that children who come from single-parent homes, a good number of them have those problems. And then children who come from homes where the parents are hardly at home, the business people, career parents who are hardly there, and the children are not supervised, they are always a problem.
Okay. Yes, Prof.
Yes, I agree with what they said. Every single family is concerned, especially families, career parents, either in business, in public service work. What used to educate these parents in the absence of, these children, in the absence of the parents, were grandparents, were uncles. But our society has completely changed. And we have taken up the culture of having babysitters. So those who do the education are the babysitters. The parents is not there to provide the basic education. And you see, they start teaching the children morals when the child is already grown. You start teaching a child when the child is still breastfeeding. When the child bites the mother's breast, the mother has to talk to the child, because the child understands your language, will speak to you, but you don't understand that child's language. It is when the language is fully developed that you know exactly what that child is telling you. So you start teaching right from that age. And as the child grows, you change the teaching strategies. Once you miss at that tender age, and you wait for the child to start going to school, you have missed everything. And once you are never in the house, always out to work, to look for money, you miss that child completely. It will take you a lot to be able to bring back that child to resemble a normal human being. And that is the exact situation we are facing now. And given that a lot of parents are out of home now from morning and they come back late when the children are sleeping, these children learn from their friends, and they learn the wrong things. They learn from the TV, they learn from magazines, those who can read and write. But the very little ones too, they learn by listening to the senior ones and understanding exactly what to do, and they do the same thing that the senior ones do. So it is really a huge issue for us, and the parents have to find time for their children. If they don't find time, at least 2 hours in a day, failure will set in, violence will set in.
Now, when you say what you say, and we look at the realities of today's society, where everybody's rushing to have something, and every parent in the home wants to bring something to the family to be able to make up the family basket, the bread basket. How would you reconcile that with the prescriptions you are giving?
You must have time, even for yourself to eat. You must find time to come back home and sit down with the kids, even if it is 1 hour. Those children need you. Because once you are out looking for money, you can have all the money, but you lost all the children. You can have 10 children, even though it's rare to have that number, then you find out that only one really emerges as something. The others become wayward because you were never there. No, neither you were there, nor a grandparent was there, because he's living in somewhere in the village.
Okay. Now, you wanted to chip in something before I ask you the contributions of peer pressure.
What I wanted to add is, beside the issue of parents not necessarily, being at home to be able to deal and bring up these children in a particular way. If you notice, if you try to do a survey on the kind of the violence that we have in our schools, at times you realize that even the environment in which the schools, some of our public schools are constructed, is a very serious issue. You come and construct a school next to an off-license or to a casino, for example.
No, it is the off-license or the casino that goes closer to the school and not the other way around.
Well, what we are trying to say is that some of these activities around school campuses, they have a negative impact, especially on some of our kids or some of our students, because we have situations where you are running around looking for your students and then you see them sitting in a bar opposite the school campus. So I think that's something that equally need to be looked into, the kind of environment in which schools are constructed. It's very, very important.
What of peer pressure?
Peer pressure, sure, especially when it comes to the drug consumption, or what they call trauma or whatever.
Is it only trauma or alcohol and all whatnot?
Drugs in general.
About 80.
Your colleague takes this, he becomes very courageous, he acts in a particular way. Now you too, you want to test it, and then you want to behave, you want to be gay, and then you want to act in that particular manner. They like Prof said, I think the consumption of drugs is something that we really need to look into, because the kind of violence that we are seeing in our schools is so obvious that it is the influence of drugs. It's unacceptable. We cannot imagine how a student in Catrium will have muster the courage to take a dagger and then stab the teacher to death. That can only be the handiwork of drugs.
Yes, I want to say tramadol is just a minute aspect of it. You have 80 different drugs that circulate within the school environment. 18 different.
Now, how do you explain this phenomenon of children today wanting to go for drugs? It wasn't like that in the past. Some would say we're looking back with a lot of nostalgia and all whatnot.
I think the issue of drugs too is this rush for money. The producers are the ones enticing the students into taking those drugs, and they use their friends to introduce them to those drugs gradually. So government has to do something about those who produce those drugs around, because if they are not there, the children will have access to those drugs, and therefore they will not use them.
Now, when you sit at the level of your parent-teacher association, what do you say in relation to these type of parents whose children have become a problem in the school milieu?
When we was young in our village, we had 4 kinds of people we respected. We had a teacher first. We had a catechist.
Yes, a catechist.
We had a chief of the village and other people. Now in our society, we see if in the new society, we parents, we don't want to respect teachers, because we say sometimes teachers are poor. When I pass with my luxury car, I see the teacher who
is working.
Yes. I can say something when I carry my children.
Yes.
And they
would hear.
Yes. If you are driving, taximan say, "Oh, old man, go away." I say, "Oh, move, you too, go away."
Okay.
I understand.
The comments which you make and which your children follow when you are in the vehicle.
Sometimes. Then we try to explain to the parents that we are the main people who must take the education of our children
seriously
at home. Yes, because we abandon this. I have observed.
Okay.
If we call,
parents have abandoned their parental responsibilities.
Because if we call parents at the meeting, at the lycée, they say, I cannot go there. They need only money. Huh? Because if you come, we can explain to you the problem of your children, and so on and so on. I hope we have to do more.
Something.
Yes.
Something. In fact, almost all the responsibilities are being pointed to the parents. Now, yes,
Joe, I wanted to add, insofar as we insist that 90% of the responsibility of training a child morally goes to the parents, we equally need to understand that there are other issues,
contributing factors.
To this violence in our schools today.
Yes, I was just coming to that, because can a teacher or a school milieu reform a student that came with bad behavior from home? I'll give you that question.
Yeah, we have many examples.
Okay.
Yes, especially with us, where the students come and stay on campus with us. If you really calculate, in a boarding school, out of the 12 months of a year, the students spend 8 months in school.
Okay.
And so in such a milieu, the children can actually easily be influenced by that milieu.
Okay.
And many parents can testify to that.
Okay.
But with the situation of day schools where the children go and come, it's different.
Okay. Now, one thing which people have been commenting on is the fact that teachers have not been properly equipped in their training to be able to handle this phenomenon. Would you agree with that assertion?
Yes, I will do. And this comes to something we call structural violence, which has to do with the state. They are trained, they are good pedagogues, they come out, they are ready to teach. They need a salary. The salary may stay for 2 years before they come. These students know, they are aware that our new teacher does not have a salary. That respect for the teacher drops. It drops. Because, first of all, he comes on foot. Secondly, at times he does not have a very good, decent living home. It may be the school that provides some residence, probably in a classroom, giving him a classroom to live there, and so on. So all those make the teacher not to actually be able
down or play down on the teacher's ego,
zeal.
Okay.
To discharge
zeal first.
Yes, to discharge his function, and the respect that the teacher has, I mean the student has for the teacher, is eroded. The respect that the parent has for the teacher too goes, and they treat the teacher as a beggar within the 2 years that he's waiting for his salary. And that is what happened with Chakunte. He had to hang around to be able to make some money before going to his station. Yes. So, and it happens like that it has been happening over the years. For me, I take that as structural violence, as state violence against the teacher, because he has been trained, yes. He is equipped pedagogically, but he has not been given what it takes to do the job.
Okay. I'll come back to that. I'd like our producer to give us an example of what we say is violence in the schools, which have been circulating on the social media. It might be able to shock some of you, but I crave your indulgence. Let's have those pictures. That's an example of what we obtain today in some of our schools.
Yes.
Very bad indeed. And you ask yourself, where is the morals of our society today? When you experience, in our days, boys hardly would slap a girl.
Joe, something that is more interesting in that video, you realize that the other classmates, instead of even trying to separate the students,
yes.
What are they doing? They're taking the video.
Yes.
Only one person.
Yes, they're trying to get the video and that kind of thing. You see, we were discussing among ourselves in our teachers forum the other day, and we insisted that there is need for moral education and religious studies to be institutionalized in our schools.
Now, yes.
If you notice, when some of us, when we were growing or we were going to school, when you come to school in the morning, the first thing you do is what? Is prayers. We start the day with prayers and then we end with prayers. But if you look at our schools today, there is absolutely nothing as far as moral education is concerned. It is very, very important to institutionalize that as a subject in our schools, and if possible, even make it compulsory, even with religious studies. It's very, very important. Because when a child does not fear God, when a child does not know what his moral responsibilities are, what obtains is what we just saw in the video there.
Okay. Prof?
Yes, I will say that what we saw in the video, you see that it is not one person who is fighting. You have two groups of people fighting. They are in two camps. You find that in that school, and you find the same thing in other schools. And it may be happening the same day, because it is like the students plan that on this day or on such and such a day we should do this. Is the way, yes, this is how we should behave today, and this is how we should behave tomorrow. Those things shouldn't have been happening if Cameroon had not neglected and pulled religion out of the curriculum. I think it is time for us to end it, to start teaching religion right from the kindergartens, from the nursery.
Sure.
You start building up that child from that age when he starts going to school. You start from school, making sure that the child goes to church. It doesn't matter.
Or to the mosque.
Or to the mosque. I mean, I was coming to say, whatever religion, not sects, whatever religion the child belongs to, or the parents belong to, they should introduce that child to it. Because there is no religion that preaches violence. He will grow up knowing the best way to behave in the society.
Now, he talked there about, we intimated earlier on about teachers handling a situation, teachers being part of the people who bring up these children. Now, when in the process of training teachers, are they adequately equipped in such a way that they can handle these violent situations in our colleges?
Yeah, for us, we have an in-service program where these teachers are drilled on counseling and identifying some of these issues on students and handling. Because these things, they don't just come up overnight. When you see a child who is stressed up, it's showing on the face. You see a child who is disturbed, you see it on the face. So if teachers are vigilant enough, they'll be able to pick out those things. You see a child who smokes, it's shown. The signs are always there. Incidentally, not every teacher is trained to do that.
Okay.
And not every teacher is interested in doing that.
Now, what about a situation where a child slaps a teacher? Are you trained to withhold that anger or withhold that humiliation and react later when the child would have calmed down?
Well,
for example,
we are not trained formally, but informally we are trained because we are considered to be the mature person.
Joe, there's no training on earth that will give a human being the right to put your jaw for a student to slap it and then you wait to come and react sometime.
Well, scripture says so.
So I think it's true, like he said, that there are courses like, for example, in the Higher Teachers Training College, which try to teach us about behavioral patterns of students. We do educational psychology, where you could appreciate a child's character or behavior, maybe by looking at the child physically and certain telling signs that might show that the child is wayward or something. But I think that it's very, very difficult. It's getting really complex now, because we are not just talking about verbal violence, or we are not talking about a situation where students leave their houses, put knives in their bags, in their pocket, camp. We are not even talking about students again. I think we are talking about modern assassins. It will not be an exaggeration to qualify some of them as modern assassins.
Okay.
So it's a very, very serious issue.
Okay. Now, at the level of the Parent-Teacher Association, taking your school as, for example, when a case comes up that students have been found with knives and other weapons in school, yes, how do you handle it when you as parents meet?
We call no. First of all, at the school,
yes,
we call discipline council before outing, and we call parents.
Okay.
We explain to them what their children
are doing.
Yeah. But when we are together in our association,
yes,
we talk about, we call parents, and we have sometimes we have some
okay, colloquium.
Yes, who can help us,
or a psychologist rather, who can help.
Yes, who can come and explain and talk to the parents when we call Assembly General.
Okay, what's usually the reaction of the parents?
I told first that the parents don't want to come when we call them.
Okay.
First. But some who are coming, yes, appreciate. They are conscious.
Yeah, conscious.
Yes, that
something is wrong with their children.
Something is wrong with the children now. Now in school, we are.
Agreed on that.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Now,
the fun is that for many cases, you call parents, they will not come.
Yeah.
They will refuse to come.
Yes.
And it becomes more complex when they don't come. The student is there, the parent is not there, and it's difficult for the school to take a decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things which many people say is a contributing factor to the phenomenon now is corporal punishment, the absence of corporal punishment in schools today. Would you agree?
I will agree. When I was in Form 2, I loved writing, observing what was happening in school, and writing and publishing, though not mention anybody's name. One day, one of the students discovered I had written against him and reported to the school administration. I was beaten 50 strokes at my age, 50. From that day, I stopped. But the whole issue is that many children, corporal punishment does not mean anything to them. I think
because of the drugs they take, or because they are used to being beaten at home?
They are either being used to being beaten either at home, either by their peers, or fighting.
Okay.
So inflicting any punishment, which is corporal, does not mean very much to them. Some will be afraid. A majority will be afraid. But there's a tiny majority that has a lot of influence who
don't care about
will not mean anything.
Okay, yes, Dr. Yimbo.
Yes, I wanted to say that I think it is high time we reinstitute corporal punishment. Those who have schooled, some of us who have schooled in some schools and who were behaving wayward, we were brought to order by the king. And I can tell you that, especially for those of us who were schooling in the rural areas, when you get up at 6 a.m. in the morning with the Hamatan code, and then you know that at the time you commit any crime or you do something, they need to whip you at that hour. Joe, I'm telling you, there are so many of us who disciplined ourselves because of the king.
Okay. At the level of the PTA and the level of parents, would you accept that corporal punishment should be brought back to school?
Yes. Yes, because when we was young, if you do something at school and your father here,
you are finished.
Yes. But now, even if you do everything you do, parents,
they don't care.
Yes. And the teacher, as I said the teacher was the
idol.
Yes. The teacher can beat you, can do everything, not corporal violence, not
wounding you,
yes,
but at least inflicting some pains on you.
Yes. Then the parent must accept now that we can
bring back corporal punishment.
Yes.
Now, at the level of boarding schools, when you handle discipline cases, do you go to the extent of exercising corporal punishment?
Well, for us it is banned, and so we don't punish. Most of our rules, most of them we suspend them either internally or externally. And the surprise is at times the rule says suspend a child externally. You suspend the child and the parent is calling you that you should keep the child in school and punish. You will say, no, you take and discipline the child at home, because they are shying away from their own responsibility.
Okay. All right. I'd like us to break briefly and turn to Elvis for the online reactions. We are streaming live on Facebook and Instagram and all the platforms of CRTV Web.
Okay. Yeah, quite a good number of reactions today. We begin straight away with Mary Kilachin, who says, great topic. What is happening in our society today is violence have originated from the parents. No blame to the teachers for back home. What education do parents give their children? And when parents go to school or go to work and the mother goes to the market and most of them come back at night, what lesson do they teach, or what time do they have to teach their children? Think. And Chanji Roland says charity begins at home. Prince Motabene Obesa Modika says the government of Cameroon has not given guidance and counseling the place it deserves. No amount of force can put a stop to this if a holistic approach with counseling at the core is not taken. And Cho Waters Aye said the problem is educational system, inadequate security, moral and civic educational lessons taken for granted, and the construction of schools in not respect some international norms. While God Ford says it starts from the official and the system, and he blames those parents who say they are who they are, and when principals sanction children, they come back to school to influence the school authorities. While Tazo Henry said the problem is the system, and where moral meritocracy has no value. And Tamasang Joseph says some irresponsible parents fail to mold the character of their children. And Shelly Lillian says we don't want God in our campuses. When we say 4 papers excluding religious studies, we are saying we exclude those who have the knowledge of God. While Kelvin Cham says violence is really a bad thing, the problem is because those taking these decisions in the school curriculum have decided to relegate religious studies and moral education. And we'll conclude with Kwa Akonwi Ngwa, who says the upsurge of violence in our schools today has 3 fundamental causes: lack of home training, and he proposes some solutions, which is the re-inclusion of moral education and religious studies.
Thank you very much, Elvis. Almost all of what we're saying here, and even more from the reactions online. Would you agree that the violence is principally in the secondary level?
Secondary, not you mean secondary schools?
Yes.
Not only. There is violence even at the universities. For those of us who have had the privilege to teach in some universities, even at the level of the universities as well.
But principally
it's just that
secondary level
principally is at the violence manifests more at the adolescent level. So that's why the tendency seems to be very rampant in the secondary schools.
Okay. So what should be the contribution of the ministry in charge of secondary education?
Very good question. The first thing, like I said, and like the viewer said, bring back moral education and religious studies and make it a compulsory subject from kindergarten even to the university. That's the first way out. Next thing, what can they do? Like my prof said, when you recruit teachers, as soon as they graduate from school, start paying them. Let teachers not feel inferior. Start paying them so that they can get the dignity that they are supposed to get. The next thing I would like to say is severe sanctions. severe sanctions, like what I am still waiting for. We are still waiting to find out exactly what will happen to the young man who actually killed the teacher. Because if we do not put severe sanctions, some of these students will continue to attack and to perpetrate acts of violence. And again, even the school authorities need to take their responsibilities as well. Because I start asking myself how that guy even got into the school campus with a knife. What are the surveillance generals or the discipline masters doing? Okay. If you come to some of our lycées, there are about 50, 60 of them. Their responsibility is to make sure that the bags of those students are properly searched before they even get into campus. That has to be done. Worst of it, even the principals, the school principals have to take their responsibility as well. You dismiss a child from Lycée de Ngwaikele because of bad attitude, the next minute he's in Lycée de Biamasi, the next day he's in another lycée, Lycée de Obara. So what do you expect? What do you expect when a child is disciplined or dismissed? We should even follow, like it happens in Rwanda. Students are suspended for 2 years without studies because of bad attitude. They suspend you from going to any school for 2 years. When a child stays in the house for 2 years with being unable to get into any other secondary school, I can tell you the truth, Joe, that child is forced to change.
Okay. At the level of PTA, what contributions can you make, or would you recommend to the ministry to help in this situation of indiscipline?
First of all, as he said, the government must reevaluate the salary of
teachers.
And we parents, we must give the level of we had
respect to the teachers.
We had
to the teachers.
Because we parents, we must try to teach our children, tell them that God exists. We must go with them to
where you worship,
to church. Because now the students don't know, don't fear.
They don't fear God.
Don't fear God. Don't fear old man. Don't fear chief. They know only what they are, what Papa is. If Papa is
a big
colonel,
man,
I am a colonel. If Papa is a big man, I'm a big man. No. Your father, for Japan, I talk to the children. What your father has done
is not you.
Is not. Yes,
okay. Maybe a word from the principal of BHS.
If you observe, you will see that many of these children learn between 2:30 when they leave school and 6 o'clock when they may meet with their parents. A lot of things transpire. If the ministry could create some recreational things that will distract these children before they get home, that will keep them, so that when they leave home, when they leave school, they'll easily meet their parents without being distracted along the route. I think it will help. Because when you look at children who go to school far,
yes,
when they leave from school, as soon as they move out of the school gate, they pay up.
Okay.
And they are moving
and discussing issues. And then being corrupted as well.
Yes.
Prof, your last word.
Yes, I would say I have a fear that the violence in secondary school may spill over into our universities.
Yeah, because the same people
same people are going to arrive at the university. We recruit students at the university at 14 years.
Okay.
As young as 14 years.
So what should the government do?
So, universities should start making provisions to be able to handle these cases, to be able to provide moral lessons to these orientations to the children when they arrive at university.
It's a running story, and we will want to end here. Time is up. Thank you for being with us on the program this midday. We'll be coming back after the elections. The laws have tied us down, so we'll suspend broadcast right and come back after the elections. Until when we meet then, good day and have a nice time on CRTV. Stay with us if you can. quite a rich program ahead for you.